Okay. Can't go live on Facebook, or not on Facebook, but on YouTube. So let's try on here. No. Okay. Do this in my living room. Say hi to the camera. Okay. Do not eat this. I will kill you after the hook kills you. You know?
Yeah, I'll hold him.
No.
Superman! Oh!
We will do the video anytime soon. Okay. I have here I don't remember the name. For some reason I want to call it a rage craw, but it's not a rage craw. I have a small hook because I'm not fishing for anything right now. I have a little, I think it's half ounce. Hey. No.
50 cal. Come here. Come here.
Yes, my dog's in a 50 cal. It's boss. But, if you don't want your bobber moving up and down like this when you're fishing, then what I consider doing, then what I do is I take the pliers and I pinch right there to where it will not move. Okay. Now, I'm doing this on a random, I think it's Shimano. Yes, Shimano 6:1 gear ratio. I have 60-pound braid on here on a 6'6" rod by Shop. I'm basically going to redo my first video because it was horrible. So what I like to do when I am out on a boat and I'm fishing, like let's say a reservoir or a lake, then I want to use one of these when I come up to some brush. Now you can use anywhere from 3/16 ounce, depending on what line you're using, what rod you're really using, and also how deep it is. I'm using this one because I used this originally to punch through weeds. Now this, behind the camera, okay. I use this to punch through weeds and moss and stuff whenever I went fishing earlier. It's got a good backbone. And, so I think this is a 3/0 or something hook. This has been on here for a while. I have caught many fish on this rig actually, just because it looks kind of like a crawdad that was going on top of the vegetation and it fell through. A lot of people will say crawdads are too heavy to stay on top of the moss and the weeds and stuff. Well, they are not. Thank you. So that's what I like to do, and I only use this when I see waking or I see ripples where I know there's a fish there. And I don't care what size it is, I do quantity over quality. I'd rather catch, a bluegill won't wake that much in moss. Now, what I like to do a lot is, as if there's brush, like let's say there's a Christmas tree, we didn't want any, just threw it out into the lake or pond or reservoir or whatever you're on. And I would pitch this either in an open opening or right beside it. And by right beside it, I mean like you almost get it hung up in there. Because those bass, you know, like they are underwater, they're able to get in, they're able to get into small spaces and everything. So the bass don't really care the tight space or anything. They just care, you know, if they have room to sneak up on a fish. Let's say a crawdad or a bluegill or something like that. So they don't really care if it's a tight squeeze, they just care if they're able to get food. And this to them is food. And a lot of people say, well, you know, what if it doesn't smell or taste like a crawdad? But by the time they don't even realize, well, like by the time that they realize it's not a crawdad, I've already got them in the boat, or on land, or I've already got them hooked. And a lot of people say that, you know, they put the scent and stuff on there just to make it more attractive. That might help if the bass just picks up the tail or it just, you know, like mouths it. Then that might help. But I mean, especially if you just pop it in there and it's right in front of their face, then they're gonna hate the crawdad, bite it, and then boom, you set the hook on it and you're good. Now if you throw it out in the middle of a lake or something, like out in the middle, because they're deep, then yeah, they're gonna want that scent because they're not just going to just ambush it. Like if you're ambushing something, you're not gonna want to, you know, hey, does it taste like this? They're just like, hey, that looks like food, go after it. And so that's really my technique. And I don't really use a lot of big swim baits, jointed swim baits. I have a tiny little swim bait that I throw in rivers and creeks and stuff. And I usually use the small, little cheap ones you can get at Walmart. But those are ones that I usually use. Just those little tiny, like 1, 2, 3 inch ones with the exposed hook. So I've used a couple of Rapalas and stuff, but I mean that's only if it's like the shaker doesn't work, the drop shot doesn't work.
Feed the cow.
So now you shut up. But sorry if I'm not fitting into the frame. I am 6'5" after all, so I mean I'm not gonna fit in the whole entire frame. So I'm trying to back up. And you're like 4 feet tall.
I'm 5.
Shut up. I'm still like a 1.5 taller than you. Go get another ice cube. So that's really just my version of bait. Now, other baits. Let me get in here. Awkward silence. Now, if you are going after that scent or that specific look, like if you want it to absolutely look like a crawdad, and you know they're deep or they're kind of, you know, not wanting to bite anything, then I would go more towards a drop shot or something. But I don't really drop shot fish a lot. I've only drop shot fish like once or twice, and all I caught was a little bit on crappie. So I would really go, if they are fidgety and not wanting to bite anything, I would actually go more towards this small craw, this small jig right here. It's a little black and red jig. I have a little, I just cut the end off of one of the crawdads and put it on there. And I would just toss it in there and just slowly move it. Just slowly drag it. And it's smaller, so it's not going to be that hard of a prey for them to chase down or anything. You know, this should resemble a little hatchling or a little baby crawdad. No. So I mean, bass are going to want to go after this if they're not wanting to eat anything because they're going to be lazy and not moving a lot because they don't want to waste any energy. But I mean, this, they're going to think, hey, it's young, it's stupid. It's going to be like, what the hell are you? And then it's going to just go after it. Stop sniffing my butt, 50 cal. So, that's really just my go-to if it's really hard to get a fish to bite. Either that or I would go more towards a moving bait. More like something like this. Now, I would throw this in first, and then I would slow roll it, and then if I get a follow, then I'll throw it in there and I would burn it, because they are, like, if you slow roll it, then if they follow it, they're like, hey, there's a fish coming through here, that's something to eat, but I'm not really wanting to eat it. But if you burn it, then they're going to go after it, they're going to want to know what it is, and if it keeps moving faster, they're going to try and catch up to it, and by that time, they're already pissed off, they're agitated, and they're just going to want to get this out of their way. And they're just going to go after it and just demolish it. So, that really is just my go-to thing on a day where it's like cloudy or, you know, it's raining or something. Like obviously if you, like if it's raining or if it's cloudy, you want to start off with, you know, some moving baits or a topwater bait. But I mean, if that doesn't work and if Senkos don't work, and if Senkos don't work, you just know the bass are retarded. You know, but I mean, and if the jigs don't work or if the Texas rigs don't work, then I usually take and I'll throw one of these dyed tail little lizards and a little weighted swim bait hook, and I'll throw it out there and I will just bounce it up and down, kind of like aggressively, bounce it up to where it's about 1.5 foot off the bottom, where it looks like it's like an injured bait fish or something, and then they're gonna, like the bass are gonna think, you know, it's an injured bait fish, it's not gonna be that much work, and then you bounce it up, you wait about 4 or 5 seconds, and then you bounce it up, and when you're waiting that 4 or 5 seconds, it's falling down, the tail is waggling around, it's spinning, it's attracting stuff, and they usually hit it on the fall. And what most fishermen, what most like new fishermen, like let's say my sister just started fishing, which she hasn't, she's been fishing for a while. I'd say that she's just now getting into bass fishing like I am. Like I actually want to become a pro fisherman. And I'm pretty good at fishing. I'm not this huge world known guy, but I mean, but what most new fishermen don't know is that there's always fish all around where you are. If you toss that down, there's going to be bluegill, crappie, maybe even occasionally a catfish and bass around it, because they're going to want to know what the hell just fell into the water. Now, if there's a bunch of bluegill and crappie and stuff around it, then obviously the bass is going to, you know, hey, this is my territory, what just happened? They're going to be territorial and they're going to come and check it out. So a lot of people don't know is if you're sitting there like, oh, they're not biting, they must be on that side of the lake or this side of the pond or something. There's always a bass everywhere you cast. Almost every single time there's a bluegill, crappie, bass, whatever you're fishing for around your bait. They're just waiting to be enticed. Like they're already around it. They are either getting ready to bite it, they're just sitting there wondering what it is. They're not into it, but they're checking it out. Then there's always a bass around it. So I mean, like if you get something to follow it in, it's either you were reeling it in too fast, or you weren't working it right, or they're just seeing what it is. You're either using too big of a presentation, wrong collar, wrong bait, wrong style, or something. Like you don't want to throw this if you know, like you don't want to throw a hook this big if you know there's just a bunch of small bass in the pond you're fishing. You're just going out there to have a little bit of fun and rip some lips. You're going to want to throw a little smaller hook, like something like this. With a bass, a small, like 3/4 pound bass is going to be able to bite this small hook better than this big hook. Now, you know, but like if you know that there's some pretty big bass in there, you don't know where they are, but you know they're around in the area, then you're going to want to throw this hook to start out with, or this hook to start out with, depending on what you're using. Now, if you're using a swim bait, you're obviously going to want to use one of these hooks. If it's a bigger presentation, because usually bass will go after bigger bait because they have bigger appetites. You know, but I mean, like, especially if you know there's big bait fish around in the place you're fishing, you're going to use a big bait fish presentation. Who is it? Okay. But, that's really all I have right now because I'm going on 20 minutes of video and I can only have 20 minutes of video. So I'm just going to end it right here and I will try and figure out this whole YouTube live thing. So from now on, or for right now, Bass Fishing Central out with a tug beer drug and go catch some fish. Good luck on the water.